Alright, hello, my name's Caesar, and I made this song in support of Von's Veganic Gardening Question Time, and yeah, I hope you enjoy it. Peace.
You're about to hear some top class organic fucking allotment rap. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Yo. I be bored under the money tree, it's kind of a rapper, but really only give a off about the flowers growing next to me. Lettuce to celery, lessons in letters when letting the veg grow. Sunstorms, hail blow, but still I'm here digging up potatoes in my big old brown coat. It's lockdown, so all these harvests come in handy, and it's healthy to be grafting on some ground that's really asking for tomatoes. I might smoke a Marlboro while sprouting avocado. It really takes its time so slow. Yo, it really takes its time so slow. Practice my patience for spacing apart the plants in the plot. I'm raking all these leaves which biodegrade into good soil. Hey yo, soil where I choose to toil. I don't support the wars for stolen oil, temper boils. I don't support having poison covering food and royals richer than everyone else, or CEOs who never loyal to no one but the dough. Yeah, to no one but the dough. So I'm sticking to my homegrown, from sticky icky to chili, zucchini and spinach I never won't. No.
Yeah, man. It's all about this allotment business, you get me? For like £60 for a whole year, man. And like, I bring home these fat stacks of you know, kale and perpetual spinach and all that. Do you know what I mean? What do you know about organic food? You don't know nothing about that, man. And it, yo, honestly, bro, just try it, fam. Allotments, you know what I mean?
In support allotments, bro. The Allotment Act in whatever year it was a very important act in the UK history. Right up there with the Ramblers Act, alright?
Welcome, people. We're welcoming the animals too and the plant lovers to another wonderful episode of Veganic Gardeners Question Time. I am your host, Giles Bryant. Tune in to our show and become part of a growing revolution. It's a food revolution. It can not only transform your life, your health and your garden plot, but do you know what? We can make an impact to the way that the world grows its food. Yes, we can. So let's get together and show the world that there is indeed a demand for vegan organic fruit and veggies, and encourage farmers to transition to plant-based organic farming. Oh, you don't panic, it's veganic. Now you can do this very simply. A great step you can all take, everyone listening out there, watching out there, is to join the Vegan Organic World Map and be part of the worldwide community of farmers, growers and supporters. And it's free to join. There's the wonderful flyer. Look, vonmap.org, and it's just brilliant. It's a brilliant site. You'll find our garden there in sunny Suffolk in England, and there's so many. There you go. Look, vonmap.org. There's so many. I think we've got nearly 1,000 people now, and the maestro was telling me we've even got one in the Antarctic. I think you can have veganic pizza now in the Antarctic, which is wonderful. Well, I tell you what, ladies and gentlemen, just a quick message from us, from Von, the Vegan Organic Network, to you, the wonderful audience, before we introduce our fantastic panel today. And that is to say thank you to everyone that sent in a question. We get so many questions. Unfortunately, time permits us to be able to answer every one of them. All right. But if you haven't had your question answered today, we do apologize. But of course, we are streaming live, so you can always put your question in the chat on YouTube or Facebook or however you're watching this show today. Leave it in the comments, and we'll do our best to try and sneak it in. But I tell you what, we've got a fantastic show with some wonderful questions and a fantastic panel. So I tell you what, shall we get into the panel, maestro? First up, we have is she there? Jaz, are you there? Jaz Boler. She's an avid veganic gardener and a food activist, ethical, vegan, and very much focusing on sustainability. And her love for veganic gardening stemmed from when she was a child, and she learnt from her great-grandmother. Big respect to the great-grandmother, big respect to the great grandmother, and she's launched the comprehensive guide called How to Grow Your Own Food. Jaz, how are you?
I'm doing great. So excited to be here with you and everyone. Thank you all for joining and for your amazing questions. We're super excited. So, yeah.
It's wonderful. Now, Jaz, I need to before we get into those questions, tell us a little bit about the Food Empowerment Project.
Yes, so I'm here today with the Food Empowerment Project, representing Food Empowerment Project, and the guide you mentioned was for our website, so you can find it there. But Food Empowerment Project is a vegan nonprofit. We do a lot of food justice work, and we have a lot of focus areas. Our 4 main focus areas are veganism, of course, access to healthy foods, chocolate, and oh my goodness. Oh my gosh, sorry, it's slipping my mind. But yeah, we do food justice work, and yeah, that's
well. The thing is, as soon as you said chocolate, my mind just went to some nice veganic chocolate, to be honest. And you've been working in university. Tell us about what you're doing there, the curriculums that you're working on.
Yes, so I actually graduated in 2023. I majored in sustainable development, and I specialize in human and non-human animal relations and ethics. And there was whenever I got into veganics and created my own class about veganics and created my own path, because unfortunately there was no veganic centered way to focus on agriculture. It was all centered around exploiting animals. So I was able to create my own class and do a lot of projects surrounding veganics. And that's where I got started and was able to move forward with Food Empowerment Project and create that resource. And in my own life, just implementing veganics and trying to spread the word wherever I can, because a lot of vegans don't know about it, unfortunately.
No, you're right. And it's wonderful to have you here. So, Jaz, we look forward to you sharing some of your wisdom later on. Okay, Maestro, who else have we got in our wonderful experts today? Let's see. I think we've got Meg Kelly, one of my favorite. I mean, everyone's my favorite in a way, but you know, you do have favorites, don't you? And Meg certainly is. Meg is an avid veganic gardener, and she co-founded the Veganic Agriculture Network in 2008 and teaches the Learn Veganic online gardening course, which is amazing, by the way. And Meg organized the Veganic Summit recently, which was incredible. Free 3-day online event, sharing amazing wisdom and knowledge. Meg, are you there?
Hey there, Giles. Great to see you again.
Oh, it's wonderful to see you, Meg. How are you?
Doing well. Yeah, doing very well.
And how was the Veganic Summit?
The Veganic Summit was great. We just had that back in November. We had about 15 different speakers sharing their knowledge about veganics. We had about 3,000 people joining us.
Wow.
So just wonderful to bring the veganic community together like that.
It's just incredible. And it shows, doesn't it, just how this thing is growing. As Gandhi said, there is nothing as powerful as an idea whose time has come, and it is the time for veganic. Have you got anything coming up?
Absolutely. So every February and March, we teach our Learn Veganic gardening course. And this is a course that's designed to empower home-scale gardeners to grow their gardens in a way that is completely plant-based, that doesn't use any animal byproducts, and that's totally organic too. And we really focus in on sustainable techniques. So this year, our Learn Veganic gardening course is starting on February 12th. So that's coming up pretty soon. And I just wanted to let people know that if you use the coupon code VON15, you'll save $15 on the course, and we'll also make a donation to the Vegan Organic Network. So if you'd like to learn more about the course, you can go to learnveganic.com. And again, with the coupon code VON15, you can get a discount. And yeah, we just have a wonderful, wonderful group of people joining us. The thing we love the most about this is how it brings together veganic gardeners from around the world who've got similar goals, similar interests, and we have a lot of small group conversations to troubleshoot people's gardening problems together. So yeah, we're really looking forward to that.
And I can vouch, it is an amazing course. Wonderful. Well, Meg, we look forward to you sharing your veganic wisdom throughout the questions. And Maestro, I believe we have one more of our expert panelists. I'd like to introduce him, Keith Robertson, who is the founder of the Scottish School of Herbal Medicine on the beautiful island of Arran, which was established in the year 2000. So how about that? Big up, island of Arran. And the farm is run along veganic stock-free lines with organic philosophy, as well as, of course, the vegan thing. So, Keith, are you there?
Hello there.
Hi, Keith. How are you doing?
I'm grand.
Oh, it's wonderful to have you along. So, Keith, tell us, how is life on the island of Arran? I mean, this time of year, hey?
It's grand. It's beautiful. It can
Really
be cold, but it can be wild, but it's very pure and clean, and yeah, it's quite an amazing place.
And you've done a lot of work, haven't you, researching planetary health, herbal medicines, diet, cooking, raw foods, hands-on practical living. I mean, you just do so much. It's just amazing.
Thank you very much. Yeah, and it's we established the farm in Arran in 2000, but the school's been going since 1992.
Right. Wow, that is incredible. 1992, ladies and gentlemen, even a few years before Von was established. So, Keith, you are old school. You are wonderful. And as I've chatted to you before, a man with incredible wisdom. Well, I tell you what, ladies and gents, shall we get into the questions? Because I think we may have had our toughest collection of questions ever. So I might throw in a few of my own along the way. Let's see, shall we? I do have a tendency to do that, to go off script, which hopefully is all right with Maestro. So, Maestro, please, and what we're going to do, panel, is if you want to give an answer, just put the hand up. Just give us a wave, and hopefully someone will answer one. If not, I'll make something up. So here we go, Maestro. First question, please. Maria in Spain, or Maria, we could say, what are the top 5 vegetables, or just top few maybe, to start indoors in February for a veganic garden? Well, she's in Spain. She's in the warm. Anyone want to go at this? What could we do? What could we start off? Anyone? What could we start off?
Well, I'm just going to say that, I mean, we have Maria joining us from Spain, but really no matter what area of the world someone's joining us from, what they really want to be looking at is their last frost dates and kind of working back from there. So all of us who are panelists here today are not in the same environment as Maria. Jaz might be the closest with her climate in North Carolina, but all of us are going to have planting dates that are at least a few weeks off from each other. And so what I like to do is look at when is our last frost date and then work our way backwards. And another thing that we can look at is what time of year can the soil be worked in your area? You know, does the soil freeze or does it not freeze? So basically, if you're in a situation and you're in the south of Spain and your soil is unfrozen and you're not having lots of heavy frosts, if someone's in that situation, they could actually start planting some things outdoors, even in cooler weather. Even if you're getting a few light frosts, there's some things you can plant outdoors, like fava beans and carrots and bok choy and tatsoi and kale. So I don't know if Maria's climate looks exactly like that right now, or if it will, in 3 or 4 weeks. For me, that's not going to happen until May. So each of us just needs to look. But if your soil can be worked and you're only getting down to, let's say 4 or 5 degrees Celsius at night, there are a number of things you can plant outdoors straight away. And as far as indoors, again, we want to look at that last frost date. And I like to go about 6 weeks back from the last frost date, 6 weeks before our last frost, to do things like tomatoes or peppers or eggplant, starting them indoors, because those are really, really, really sensitive to frost. If you plant those out too early when you still have frosts, they're just going to be killed by the frost. If you start planting them indoors 3 or 4 months before you're going to plant them outside, you might get to the point where they're outgrowing their pots, they're outgrowing the lights that you have for them and things like that. So I would just say, look at your last frost date, go about 6 weeks back, maybe 8 weeks at most, and then start planting your tomatoes and peppers and eggplants. And if people look up their own frost dates in their area, you can just use that as a little bit of a general rule. The other thing I would suggest when it comes to this is, honestly, this isn't specific to veganic growing at all. It's more specific to your own individual region. And the people who are going to be able to answer those questions best for you are people who have been longtime gardeners in your area. So if you're part of a community garden or you have neighbors who have been gardening for decades, ask them what date they start planting their tomatoes indoors or start planting their peppers indoors, because the people who have been doing this for decades right in your neighborhood are going to be the ones who will be able to tell you what works timing wise.
Wonderful. Super duper. Anything to add, Keith or Jaz, to that?
I suppose it comes down, as Meg says, light levels. You know, if you plant stuff too early and you don't have enough light, then then stuff you plant later will probably catch up and overtake it. Just kind of things she mentioned there. Beans in UK, you can grow broad beans over the winter, and a lot of the things like kale should have been planted a while ago, but could still be planted early. And any of the Chinese leaves, the Mizunma, Mabuna, all these ones. But yeah, there's an old saying in Scotland: the sower should be naked when you're sowing the seeds outdoors.
Yes, I do remember that, Keith, and I've been trying to get that image out of my mind of me and you planting together on the Isle of Arran, but it's still there. I tell you what, shall we move on, Maestro? Because we've got some great questions. Let's go to the next one, shall we? Now this is Sarah. Now Sarah's got a bit of an issue with comfrey. My garden has a large patch of comfrey, which is clearly the type that spreads. I would like to grow something else there. Is there any hope that I can clear at least part of it and grow something like herbs there? And if so, how? Comfrey. Well, God, I love comfrey. Keith, give us something about it's a herb, isn't it, comfrey?
Oh yeah, I mean it's a fantastic medicinal plant, but it's a very strong plant. If you have a comfrey patch, it's best just to leave it as a comfrey patch. So the answer is no. You won't be able to grow anything else there. Well, I'm overstating that. No plant can survive without a green leaf. So if you really want to get rid of something, you could get some turf and put it over it and then just mow it.
Yeah.
But it's a valuable resource. If we've got comfrey where we don't want it, when we dig it up and move it. But you need to move every part of the root.
Yeah, I mean, when I saw the question earlier there, Keith, I just thought, well, I love making like teas and tonics and, you know, putting it on me beds, the comfrey. It's just, I absolutely love it. I mean, Jaz or Meg, you got anything else to say to Sarah about this?
For sure. One thing I'm just going to mention about comfrey for people who are less familiar with it is it's an amazing source of potassium for your plants. So it can actually go down with a root system that's a couple of meters deep. Yep. It's amazing at bringing potassium up into its leaves. It's a decent source of nitrogen too. So comfrey is a plant that you can use to fertilize your other plants. But as this person mentions, they've got a type that spreads. Some comfreys are better behaved. If anyone here is thinking of adding comfrey to their garden, you'll definitely want to put it in a spot that's away from your main garden so it doesn't take over too much. And people who are thinking of buying comfrey should buy a type that's called Bocking 14. Bocking 14 is a special type of comfrey where the seeds are sterile, so there's a lot less spreading going on. Now, for the person who asked the question, they already have a type of comfrey that's a bit more, aggressive in terms of spreading. So there's a couple of recommendations I'll give to that person. One is things that you can do just to limit the spread. One is making sure it doesn't go to seed, because if you have a type that goes to seed and those seeds can make it spread further, you want to make sure that you're always cutting that comfrey back before it goes to seed. Another thing is comfrey can spread really, really easily from tiny bits of roots. So if, for example, you try to get rid of that comfrey patch and you dig up the roots.
Oh, yeah.
If those roots end up anywhere else in your garden, or if they get into your compost pile, you can end up with comfrey in a lot of new places that you weren't expecting it. So if you do decide to try to get in there and uproot it or anything like that, I would make sure that those roots either stay in the comfrey patch, so at least if they make more comfrey, it's at least in the same place, or kind of get them off the scene completely, but don't put them anywhere else in your garden. And that can actually be true for even the flowering stems of comfrey can actually reroot in other parts of your garden. So if you're using comfrey, for example, as like a mulch in your garden or something like that, it's a wonderful mulch. Always just make sure that you're just taking the green leaves. The green leaves will not reroot. but the roots can reroot, the
Mhm.
flowering stems can reroot. So more than anything, we want to limit it from spreading from where it already is. And if I had a comfrey patch and I really, really, really wanted to try to get rid of it, I don't even know if it's possible, to be honest, because it's like 2 meters deep. But as Keith mentions, if something can't photosynthesize, it might eventually get worn out. So you could get in there, chop it down several times a year to try to wear it out a little bit. Every time you chop it down, you're creating fertilizer that you can put elsewhere in your garden. So that's fantastic. If you're just getting those leafy greens, they're great as fertilizer. And you could, if you wanted to, try to dig out the roots. But like I said, they go down like 2 meters. It's not that practical. So if someone really wanted to get rid of it, they could try tarping it for a couple of years and see if that helps. In terms of whether you could grow anything in the comfrey patch, I'd say that partly depends how thick it is. But sometimes people put comfrey at the base of trees. If someone has a forest garden, they might have apple trees and pear trees and things like that with comfrey growing at the base. So if I had a giant comfrey patch and I wanted to try putting something in it, I would probably try chopping down the comfrey fairly aggressively, digging a nice big hole, planting in like a pear tree or apple trees or something like that amongst the comfrey patch, just to see if they can get a foothold, because they have such extensive root systems, the trees, once they're established, that if they could manage to outcompete the comfrey, even though the comfrey's established, maybe that could get like a little bit of a forest garden setting going. If you want to try putting in herbs, you could try things like oregano, which are tough in and of themselves, but I think it's going to be hard to genuinely eradicate the
I mean, what we're saying, Sarah, is let's use that comfrey. Let's just use it and share it with your friends. So thank you, Meg, there, and Keith. Now, I've got a question for you here, Jaz, because, I mean, let's say some of us are older than others, shall we say, but you represent the veganic, the youth, which is amazing, because we've got people part of the Veganic Organic Network of all ages, which is absolutely fantastic. Now, I want to know, please, what can young people do to get started with veganic, particularly if gardening or farming, particularly maybe if they don't have much access to space to grow or access to land? What can the young people do?
Thank you so much. Yeah, I think that there's so many options to garden, like gardening spaces outside of just having a large plot of land. A lot of people think you need to buy a lot of things to get started, or you have to have a lot of land to get started. But the truth is that you can get started with what you already have, whether it's the comfrey, for example, or it's using leaves as fertilizer, or your own at-home compost as fertilizer. You can get started with what you have. You don't need to buy anything extraordinary. Veganics is plant-based, so you just need to use plants, whether it's you cultivating your own compost or using what's already outside. So I think that's number one to know, is that you don't have to really go too far to get started. And it really is just about getting started in the first place. Because it's a journey, like whether, for any of us, gardening is a journey and you have to start somewhere. And so whether you're going to start indoors in your windowsill, just doing herbs. And I was going to mention, for folks who are eager to get gardening in the winter and want to start things indoors, if it's too early or it's just the middle of winter, like, of course, you can do your herbs in the windowsill. You can do sprouts and stuff like that. So that's what I would say, is that there's just so many options, whether it's your windowsill getting started, whether it's a community garden. If you're in university, definitely see if there's already a garden going for your university, or you can figure out who you need to talk to get that going, because most places will be super eager to do that. If you're in a neighborhood, maybe you can get a community garden going if it's not already established. And so, and going online to safely try and connect with people in your area to see where there's different spots where you can learn how to garden. There's a lot of resources online, including the resource that I have recently worked on for our website, foodispower.org, how to grow your own food, where you can know how to garden from start to finish in a variety of spaces. So you could do the container gardening. That's another option for indoor gardening as well. Especially, sorry to go back to the other question, but I was just thinking about, like, especially if you're a little bit nervous, like, is this the right time to put it in ground or not? You can always start with the container gardens. Take it outside. Oh, wait, it's a little bit too early. Bring it back inside. It'll be okay for the most part. So there's just so many spots. And I guess like the number one thing I would say is just like the sky is your limit, and there's so many different options. There's an option for everything. Even in the resource, we talk about how you can grow food from produce, like from the store, like you can regrow it, and you can get like starters from oh my gosh, the word is slipping, like propagate. Yeah, you can propagate from other established plants, and that can help you get your footing as well. So definitely just know there's so many options, and the first thing and most important thing you can do is get started. And yeah, it's and just create your own path, because like I said, I had to start my own class in college because there wasn't an option for veganics. It's so niche. I mean, vegans already make up less than 1% of the population, so, and most people don't know about veganics. So you really do have to create your own path. And I think this is, I mean, you're already getting connected with like this question time, and then there's so many different entities that can help you get connected, because you will have to probably create your own path and get connected where you can, because it is so niche, but it is so rewarding.
Beautiful, beautiful. And was it foodispower.org?
Yes.
What a name for a website. Foodispower.org. I mean, it is, isn't it? You know, Vivekananda said, religion isn't for empty bellies, so we do need to feed people, and we can with the veganic food system. Wonderful tips there, Jaz. And I would say, if you don't have access to land, right, and you're anywhere in the world, you could go on the Von map and you could find a project probably quite near to where you are, or if not, just start one, even if you're a supporter. I mean, the thing about sprouting, we're eating sprouts at the moment. Oh, yes, we are. Come on, you know, and indoor, what we can grow indoors. It's so exciting, isn't it? It's such an exciting world. Maestro, I think we better get on to the next question, please. Oh, it's Karen Sutherland again. Hi, veganic gardeners. How do I grow cabbages / brassicas in a humane way to avoid... Oh, here we go. It's the slugs again. The slugs have been eating Karen's Taunton Dean Cotter's kale. Now, that's her favourite, by the way. She's spoken about this before. She's very specific. She loves the Taunton Dean. I found it impossible to be successful in this. Do you know what? I think every time we do these shows, it comes up about the slugs. And those, I tell you what, my cucumbers, 2 years ago, I think we had about 100 cucumbers in our greenhouse. And we had 2 this year because of our friends, the slugs. God bless them. What can we do? We obviously don't panic. We're veganic. We're not killing things. Anyone got any ideas what we can do to help Karen? Anyone? Hand up if you want to.
I mean, I can come in
Go
with
on.
a few ideas here. Now, I've been talking to some folks in England recently, and I have heard that the slug problem there has gotten a little bit out of hand, and that there's some slugs showing up that are non-native slugs, and some slugs showing up that maybe weren't in people's gardens a few years ago. So I have heard that things are getting quite a bit tougher for folks in the UK. Slugs, I mean, let's start at least by recognizing, at the very least, that slugs do generally have an important role in the ecosystem, that they are decomposers, that they are, essential to the soil life, that they end up creating aeration in the soil, that they glue soil aggregates together so that we have better soil structure. So they actually play a very similar role to worms in the soil. But of course, the downside is that they like to eat our veggies, and that's the big conflict of interest. So there's not necessarily any perfect solution to this. A few things that I can say is to avoid watering in the evening. I know that doesn't help if it rains in the evening because you can't control that, but at least for your own watering, you can try to water in the morning or water at a time where, early afternoon, where it'll have a bit of a chance to dry out, because slugs really, really enjoy coming out on damp environments in the evening. You can also show up in the evening with a headlamp and a container and pick them off by hand. They also enjoy congregating under things like pieces of wood. If it's a hot summer's day and you've left slabs of wood out in your garden, or even pieces of cardboard, they like to hide under it. And so that's something that you can kind of pick up and move somewhere else, and move a bunch of them all at once. One thing I haven't tried personally, but I've talked to other people who have tried this, is apparently they like the smell and taste of grapefruit. So if you eat grapefruit and you've got a little grapefruit half, you can, like the, after the little peel after you've eaten it, you can put those in your garden. Apparently they'll show up in there. So it's ways that you can kind of move them. Aside from that, there's the option of using kind of pieces of copper. I haven't tried that one myself, but I know some other folks have done that successfully. There's things that you can plant like nasturtiums. Nasturtiums are a good trap crop, which is that the slugs might enjoy eating the nasturtiums more than they enjoy eating your kale. That said, they might end up eating both of them. But you can put in a bunch of nasturtiums and try to lead them away. There's a lot of different things we can do, but ultimately, one of the best things that we can do is to try to reestablish, more biodiversity in our gardens. I mean, many slugs are the food source for certain birds or toads or frogs. So if we have bird baths in our garden, if we have little ponds and things like that, we might end up reestablishing a bit more of a functional ecosystem where we might not have as many slug problems. Again, none of these tactics are perfect by any means, but if you try a few of them together, hopefully it will help to some degree.
Wonderful. So Keith or Jaz, do we have any ideas? Anything else to add?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's any sort of barrier method to stop them getting to vulnerable plants. If your soil's acidic, then if you're using lime, you can if you just put that on the surface, they don't like lime, and you can make a little circle around vulnerable plants at the base with some ground lime. You have to keep it free of debris, and you'd have to replace it if it rains too much. But yeah, just as we said, we had a black slug when we took over the field here every sort of square meter. But in planting all the hedges here, we now have a fat slug-eating bird every square meter.
Yes, clever.
So we have slug patrol in the spring. Unfortunately, slug patrol, the birds then turn into fruit patrol later on in the year, but just grow enough for the birds.
Such is life. 100%. Jaz, have you had any issues with our friends the slugs?
I believe in college there was some slugs hanging around, but I personally I never really tried to figure out ways to mitigate that in my own home garden. I haven't, which is really lovely. But one thing that I would note is that it really is just trial and error, because one thing might work for the next person that won't work in your yard. So I think that gratefully they both mentioned some really helpful things. So just try a variety of things, and hopefully one of them will be bound to work for you.
Sure. And I think as well, if you grow a diverse range of plants, I mean, they just did my cucumbers, but we ate loads of courgettes, so we got away with it. Meg, I think you wanted just to come in again.
Yeah, when Jaz was mentioning trial and error there, I just remembered one of the ways that I partially dealt with slugs through trial and error. This was just by accident more than anything. Is I actually did have slug problems in one of my community gardens for a few years in a row, and I was always out with my headlamp and everything. And then one year I ended up not mulching because I was just a little bit lazy, and slugs adore living in mulch. And then I let a whole bunch of cruciferous veggies go to seed. And again, that was more laziness than anything else. And I came back the next spring and there were cruciferous microgreens everywhere. I mean, basically I had like bok choy plants and arugula plants that had just gone to seed and spread hundreds of seeds all over the place. I had hundreds of microgreens popping up. And I realized that my slug damage actually went way down because the slugs had so many cruciferous microgreens to eat. And I didn't care if they ate them because I wasn't even really trying to grow them. And so I actually found that kind of distracted the slugs a bit. They didn't really have anywhere to live anymore because I didn't really have any mulch. I kind of had a living mulch of cruciferous microgreens, and I could always remove the cruciferous microgreens if I wanted to plant something like a tomato plant or things like that. But I found that if I had, for example, a somewhat well-established kale plant, even, a start that I had done inside next to all of these cruciferous microgreens of like bok choy and stuff, that the slugs were going for the younger plants. So
Yeah.
I would say that's an option. Go buy yourself like a package of like bok choy and just start tossing the seeds everywhere and see if it helps.
Wonderful. I tell you what, we've got some great advice there. Maestro, next question, please. Oh, there we go. Thank you. Oh, here we go. Now, I think we've all got to have an answer on this one. During the winter months, what are your favourite vegan recipes? Maybe just one each. Using harvests from the garden, like root vegetables and squash. Oh, okay. Okay, Jaz, I'm going to ask you to go first here. Have you got a favourite vegan recipe?
When it comes to root veggies or
Yes.
squash, am I able to say pumpkin for the squash?
You certainly are.
Actually, no, I'm going to say I just created a recipe for Food is Power on our website, butternut squash mac and cheese. So.
Okay. All right, just run us through it. Run us through it because I'm hungry.
Yeah, so it's actually titled butternut squash mac no cheese, of course. So the butternut squash is the cheesy flavor mixed with the nutritional yeast and some good seasonings. And you just add that to the mac and bake it with some breadcrumbs on top. But yeah, you can check that out on foodispower.org. Everything goes back to Food is Power. But yeah, check that out. Butternut squash macaroni no cheese.
Loving it. Well done. That's I tell you what, after this show, people, I might be making 3 different dishes. Keith, over to you. You got a favorite?
I think a great way of cooking veg is roasting it in the oven.
Ooh.
I would never like boil a parsnip, to be honest. And most things benefit from being grilled or roasted in the oven. So that's where I would start with pumpkin. Even I'm making a pumpkin soup, I'd probably roast the pumpkin first. Bit of oil, bit of cumin, bit of herbs and stuff like that. Bit of olive oil, as I say. Chop it up. You can either chop it up in small bits or chop it up into sort of segments and fire it in the oven. And then when you come to make your soup, you'll have a fantastic roasted dinner.
Oh. All right, okay, that's my starter. I think the mac and no cheese is the main. Meg, what you got for me? What you got for us all?
Well, one thing that I was doing last year, which I really enjoyed, and it was a bit of an improvised recipe, is I had actually been making a lot of pizza, where I'd been making pizza dough and, covering it in tomato sauce and all the toppings. And then one day I roasted a squash and, I just had this giant squash roasting in my oven. And then after I thought, what am I going to do with all of this roasted squash? And then I thought, what if I just cover it in pizza toppings? What if I just take it, I cover this pre-roasted squash in some tomato sauce, and I had some little vegan sausage bits, and I had my own vegan uncheese that I made out of mixing tahini and miso and nutritional yeast together. And I had, mushrooms and red peppers and all of that. And I just put it on top of the squash, put it back in the oven for 10 or 15 minutes. And honestly, pizza squash is pretty good. I mean, it's got squash instead of a regular wheat crust, but it was my delicious surprise. And I've made pizza squash on many occasions now.
Wow, I wasn't expecting that. Look, I'm just gonna go with mine. And we eat this every single day. And in fact, sometimes my wife says to me, she goes, we're not having stew again, are we? Very posh, my wife. But yes, we are having stew again, darling. Yes, we are. This is what I do. You get your coconut oil or, some decent oil, organic oil. Heat it a little bit. Chop up your onion. Chop up your leek. I've still got leeks in my garden, veganic garden. Oh, yes, I do. And put a bit of salt on it. Good salt. Celtic sea salt or something. And then add some spices. Get that flavour. And then chop things up small. My old mum taught me this. God bless you, mum. Chop everything up small. All those root vegetables and whatever you can. And try and put in as many different vegetables as you can. I'll go around the garden. We've still got loads of herbs growing. Put it all in and just let it simmer. Oh, let it simmer. Let it keep simmering. And send the good vibes to it. I'll tell you what, we can feed the world with a good stew and a good soup. Maestro, what have we got next? Who is it going to be? We're excited. Oh, it's Daniel. Daniel, how are you from York? Lovely York. How can I make my garden more wildlife friendly in the colder months? Well, I tell you what, before panel, you answer this. The birds talked to me the other day. I was in my kitchen and I was looking outside, and they telepathically communicated with me, and they said, "I'm hungry." Oh, because it was so cold, not as cold as the Isle of Arran or possibly Canada, but it was cold. And I fed them. And what I did was I just fed them our leftovers, our, vegan pancakes and the old porridge, and I gave them some seeds. You got to look after the birds. That's my 2 pence. Anyone else? What can we do? Make it more wildlife friendly in winter.
Leave it alone.
Love it. Love it. Love it. They're very zen there from Keith. Anyone else?
Keith, that honestly is a really respectable answer. Yeah, seriously. Because I got a little bit, I'm going to be honest, I got a little bit concerned with the pancakes and stuff, because, we have to be careful, right? So, yeah, I would just say if you are going to feed wildlife, just be very intentional and do your research about what you're putting out there, like what seeds, and if you're giving them scraps from your house or something, just be super careful. I would say too, I try and keep warm water in the bird bath that I have, and you can do a DIY bird bath. It freezes over, so it takes, due diligence to keep it, not frozen all the time. And yeah, I think in little habitats, they have like the bird houses and stuff like that. I think they always appreciate that for sure. At least that's what I've seen. So yeah, I would always err on the careful side when engaging, because of what Keith said, is that, nature knows what it's doing, but also we have created a situation where, their homes have been impacted a lot of the time. So
yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
Yeah, so it's a serious point. Don't clean up too much,
Mhm.
Leave stuff. I mean, it doesn't look good to a gardener. But I would say we have to be more guardians than gardeners, or combine those 2 words somehow.
Yeah, beautiful.
And so leaving stuff with seed heads, leaving stuff that's brown, it doesn't look good, doesn't look attractive, but it's all those hollow stems are habitat for all the little organisms. Feed the birds, and responsibly.
Yeah. Well, I think the bird said to me, wanted some pancake. I was just there, and give me some pancake, Giles. Oh, go on then, you can have some. Meg, how about you? What can we do for the winter?
So I would say that a lot of the things that we can do to help wildlife in the winter are things that we're actually doing at other times of the year in order to have wildlife better set up in the winter. So some of this can actually be long-term planning, like finding out what are some of the native plants that are good food sources for local wildlife in the winter. So there are some plants, for example, that are going to make certain types of berries that might still, provide or seeds rather, that would provide a food source in the winter. And so some of these are actually decisions that we might make in the spring or the summer or the fall, or what Keith is mentioning about not cleaning up too much and making sure that we're leaving a lot of those stems around. That's a decision that we make in the fall that helps wildlife in the winter. And one of the decisions we can make in the spring is not being too disruptive to the leaves that are on the ground and to the soil, because right now there are many creatures who have already made their homes underneath the leaves. And if you get in there too early in the spring and you start disrupting them, you can actually disrupt their, waking up cycle or their reproductive cycle or things like that. So we actually, in the winter more than anything, we just don't really want to disturb them, because a lot of these animals are hibernating and just underground or under the leaves or under the little habitats that we created for them at other times of the year. And we just want to make sure that they can, that they can live out their winter experience. And that's actually going to go over into the springtime too, where we want to make extra sure that we don't disturb them too early.
Wonderful. Now, Maestro, I don't know if we've got time for another question. maybe you can just write, just send us a message, either telepathic. Oh, here we go. Here we go. He's straight in there. Is there anything you're excited about trying in your own garden this spring? Okay, so maybe just a one-word answer or a one sentence. Anything you want to do. Let's start with you, Jaz. Anything you're excited about?
The first thing that comes to mind, it's garden related, but it's more like food related, is fermenting. So yeah, since we don't have a lot of time, I'm just going to share. That's what's on my mind. I'm really excited to get red onions, jalapenos, all of these things fermented. So yeah.
Wonderful. Great answer. Okay, over to you, Meg. What are you excited about?
You know what? It's been a few years since I've grown mushrooms, but I just found a local source of mycelium that I'm excited about trying this spring. So I'm excited to try growing a variety of mushrooms again.
Beautiful. And over to you, Keith.
Yeah, I suppose it's always about education, you know, teaching people and having people come here and experience vegan lifestyle. And just to go back very briefly about slugs, you know, the big green and yellow slug in the UK, we call it a leopard slug. I mean, they look huge and they're quite scary.
Yeah.
But they actually eat other slugs. And there's a very apocryphal tale of Kew Gardens. The gardeners went off to First World War, and new volunteers came in and picked all the leopard slugs out of the greenhouses, and they were keeping the other slugs down.
Yeah. Well, that is they say that, don't they? The first thing in permaculture, just observe, just let things be and observe.
Yeah.
Educate, live and learn. Educate, absolutely. Wonderful answers. I'm just going to throw my one in, parsnips. I've grown parsnips for 20 years. Oh, I had that first good harvest of those parsnips. Oh, I'm going to roast it, like you said, Keith. Well, panel, I would like to thank you all so much for some wonderful insights. And it really does show what a global movement the Vegan Organic Network truly is. Don't forget, please, to join the Von Map. There it is again. Thank you, Maestro. vonmap.org. And do support the Vegan Organic Network, who do incredible work, sharing the vibes all around the world, connecting us together, bringing us together. We've all got our own things that we're doing, all of us, all the four of us here, and bringing us together. And Dan Graham is a hero of our times. So I'd like to thank the Maestro behind all of this. And, you know, do consider joining the Vegan Organic Network, where you can get this incredible, here we go, I'm just holding it up for you there, Growing Green International. It's a brilliant magazine. So do think about becoming a member of Von. Just a little plug there for Von, veganorganic.net. Well, that's it from me, Giles Bryant. I'm off to have, what was it again? The mac and no cheese. I'm going to have a weird pizza. I've never eaten pizza like that before. And I'm going to roast some soup. So that's it from me, Giles Bryant, on behalf of the Vegan Organic Network. Thank you so much for listening. If you didn't get your question answered, we had some amazing ones. They will go to the top of the list for February's show. So thank you all very much, panel. Take care. Don't panic. Let's keep it veganic.
Love it.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
See you soon, everyone. Take care.